I always sleeping with a monster? Bed had always been a haven for me, as I'm sure it has been for many others. A soft rectangle of comfort that I can always rely on. It didn't matter how hard my day was or how harsh the weather outside those four edges. It always soothed me. I'd argue the harsher days made it feel more inviting. All my worries and stress bleeding out of me, soaking into the bed sheets. That's all anyone needs, somewhere to rest their head. And usually, if you can be lucky enough, you might find someone to share that space with. And I was lucky enough. As wonderful as laying in bed is, when my wife would crawl in and pull up close to me, it was a whole other ball game. Her heat would mesh with mine, skin would run flush together, and we would become symbiotic until the sunrise. That's all I needed, all I wanted. I normally crawl into bed before she gets home. Her job would have her working different hours each day while my schedule was steady. So I'd enjoy my alone time, get comfortable in bed, and eagerly await her arrival. So that's how it went. It was a frosty night, but not cold enough to run the heater, so I just had the blankets pulled up to my chest. Work was rough, so sleep started working its magic on me quickly, and I could feel my body becoming heavier in bed. I was in and out, so time wasn't really something I had a concept of. So when I felt a pressure on the bed, it made sense that it was my wife. Her fingers were icy as they slipped under the shirt I was wearing and rested on my chest. Her frame latched onto mine like a puzzle, and she wrapped her arms around me. She was so cold, uncomfortably so. It caused my teeth to clatter together for a moment as she siphoned my body heat until we had reached an equilibrium. Her fingers gently pressed into my skin, a tender pressure I'd felt time and time again, one that always lulled me to sleep, and I could feel it then, slumber ready for its final approach. So, it was there, seconds from reaching my dreams, that I heard the front door closing. It felt like someone had ripped the bed sheets off me, thin and piercing needles of cold, running shivers all over me. It was loud, the door closing, I mean. I was frozen. I could feel the fingers on my chest tighten in response to the noise as well. It was taking me a while to process what was happening, but I figured she had forgotten to lock the front door and someone had slipped inside, perhaps closing the door harder than they intended to in their rush. "Stay here," I whispered harshly, words filled with the panic response I was trying to fight off. Quickly shunting the hand away from my chest, I got out of bed and gripped the baseball bat we keep by the bed, an object I had hoped I'd never have to pick up in a situation like this. Stepping cautiously towards the bedroom door, I could see that someone had turned a light on. The kitchen light spilled out, meekly illuminating a few spots of the apartment. My fingers gently pried the bedroom door wider open, trying to avoid its usual squeaking. The baseball bat rested on my shoulder as I tried to recall the last time I had even swung a bat. Suddenly, all too paranoid that I might not do so effectively, there was the sound of rummaging from the kitchen, a small clattering of pots and pans. With a few quick breaths to hype myself up, I quickly rounded the corner and prepared to swing my bat. Stepping out, basking in the kitchen's light, I heard a high-pitched scream wail out, filling the house with the cry. I sank. Every bit of me felt like I was falling through the floor. My heart was at my feet, and my head had sunk so low that my thoughts couldn't keep up. She was frightened too. I must have looked insane. She was speaking. I could hazard a guess at what she was saying. An apology for making too much noise on her way in. Likely. I couldn't hear any of it, though. My head was static. I could hardly even recognize her as my wife. No, she was a concept, an idea. She stood in all her glory as a stark realization. My wife's eyes became delicate with concern. As she reached out to me, I backed away, not in fear of her, but the dawning of it all put me on guard. I could still feel the fingers I felt in bed pressing on my chest as I turned around, fingers gripping the bat tighter than ever. I was quicker than I thought I could move in a situation like that. We should have left. We should have called the police. However, many should-haves in life remain unclaimed forever. I left all my should-haves behind, each rational thought vanishing with every step I took that brought me closer to the sanctity of my bed once represented. It was still wide open from when I had left it before. I said nothing to my wife. The words in my throat were ice cubes refusing to budge. Didn't even know if she was following me. Focusing and narrowing in on my goal was all I could do to stop myself from toppling over, from balling up on the floor in hysterics. Returning to the room and edging through the doorway, I had expected to see the bed empty. I had so desperately wanted to laugh it off, to rationalize that my dreams and reality had meshed while drifting off, and that nothing, absolutely nothing, was amiss. At the very worst, I could claim that I was losing my mind. Just enough moonlight. I cursed that there was enough moonlight basking my room. I wished something had swallowed up the moon, plunging the world into darkness. But there was just enough to see it. To see the bed sheets being wrinkled by the hand that had been on my chest. Just enough moonlight to bounce off her eyes, peering up at me, small pricks of silver light. Her frame was bathed in the gentle glow of moonlight, her skin taking on a pale and milky blue hue with splotches of black, reminiscent of resting ash. That thing in my bed, the moonlight allowed me to see it. I watched as it dragged its ragged fingers back and forth on the sheets like it was beckoning me to crawl back into bed. Its other hand held her ghoulish head up. It was, I don't know, posing or something. Like it was trying to be seductive. She was a monster, and worse, a monster that had invaded that one place I could rely on. Fear consumed me. I wasn't me. It wasn't my thoughts rummaging around in my head. It was the thoughts of a man who just wanted to live. I'm not sure if she had even made a noise when the end of my bat met with her soft temple. It turned out I knew damn well how to swing that thing. It was almost pretty. How the red inside of her meshed with the cold color palette the room was adorning. There was almost no resistance. None that I could feel in the moment. My fingernails carved into my palm as I brought the bat down over and over, watching her face warp and twist with each hit. The blue hues being overtaken by smatterings of crimson. Her body jerked with each hit, pulses of life reaching out before quickly vanishing. I should have taken a second. I should have assessed the situation. My wife, the cops, everyone I talk to tells me that what I did was natural. A fight or flight response gone completely haywire. But now that it's over, every time I lay my head down on the pillow, I can hear that horrid thud. An axe splitting the bark of a tree, a wet towel smacking the linoleum. It pulses in my head, poisoning my sanctuary. I don't know how many times I hit her. There was nothing resembling a face by the time I was done. It wasn't the first time she had broken into someone's house, but it'd certainly be the last. The red paste and blue skin waltzed so lovingly with the red and blue lights of the officers that arrived on the scene. My wife must have called them. The elderly woman had escaped the nursing home. Her kids left her in a few nights before and had been on the street since. The frost of a winter night stealing the plush from her skin. Her already frail frame was further weakened by the lack of food. Dementia had riddled her mind. She didn't know where she was half the time. Bed, those four sides. It's supposed to be a sanctuary. Somewhere you can go to escape all the monsters waiting to gobble you up outside. Not for me, though. Not anymore. Every night, when I peer into the darkness long enough, I could still see the silver beads peering back at me, two small orbs of pinprick light reminding me, no matter what I do, where I go, what bed I call mine, I now sleep with a monster. Thank you for listening and delving into the dark with me. I would be so grateful if you please click the thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment. The more engagement this video gets, the more YouTube will push my content to others, and thus our twisted little community will grow. All stories read on this channel will be available on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and many other podcast apps. Links are in the description. Thank you again for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you.